free college football picks. This is action here for Saturday, September the 4th. Tony T with our college football pick show here for Saturday action. We have all 57 games. Before getting away, just a couple things. TonySpicks.com is brought to you by Rhythm app. Great custom sports betting models right now with Rhythm. Download at the Apple, Android, and Google Store. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have free college football picks updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports like NFL, like college basketball starting Monday. Also NBA. We also have NHL. Lots of live shows with lots of channels with lots of cappers giving out picks, making it a great time to subscribe. And also, if you want to support our channel, like this video, give us that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit TonySpicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers. Get signed up to our long-term passes for the year. Hot cappers like Joseph Schultz, Chauncey doing great work. Ramon Scott, Hollywood Sam been on fire last 30 days. Ben Ruhala as well. Ron Crawford doing great work. Pravi as well. Marvin, click the links. Marlon, click the links. Get signed up to our long-term passes. You'll find our latest premium picks here center of the page, as well as our best bets, our $15 promotional item, multi-packs, and more. Great time to get signed up. Also, you may purchase our plays from our pick ticker individually, a la carte with team versus team information. And you can save 20% off all premium pick packages when you use that promo code TonyT at checkout. Access our page by clicking the link in the description. Click the All Cappers tab, get signed up. Always love hearing from you guys. You can post your picks in the comments. We are looking for cappers, so apply on the home page. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. Nebraska and Michigan State college football pick. This one here Saturday. Nebraska improved to 5-3 with their 31-14 home victory. The Purdue Boilermakers. Cornhuskers rushed for 155 yards on 48 carries. They held the Boilermakers to 3.3 yards per rush with 99 passing yards on 33 attempts. Nebraska had 4 turnovers and took 3 away from Purdue. Heinrich Haarberg completed 6 of 11 passes for 122 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 11.1 yards per pass attempt. Michigan is 2-6 with their 27-12 road defeat at Minnesota. Spartans rushed for 109 yards on 21 carries. They surrendered 200 rushing yards to the Golden Gophers with 200 passing on 22 attempts. Michigan State had a +2 turnover margin. Caden Hauser hit 12 of 22 passes for 117 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards per pass attempt. Nebraska is 13th in total defense by allowing 298 yards a game with 2.6 yards per rush. Michigan State has an inefficient passing game, as do the Cornhuskers. Michigan State is stopping the run. The play here in Nebraska and Michigan State under 35. Notre Dame and Clemson college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Notre Dame improved to 7-2 with their 58-7 home victory to Pittsburgh. Fine Irish rushed for 158 yards on 31 carries. They held the Panthers to under 3 yards per rush with 202 passing yards on 32 attempts. Notre Dame committed 2 turnovers and took 5 away from the Panthers. Sam Harmon hit 18 of 25 passes for 288 yards with 2 interceptions. He averaged 11.5 yards per pass attempt. Clemson is 4-4 after their 24-17 road defeat at NC State. Tigers rushed for 101 yards on 30 carries. They held the Wolfpack to under 3 yards per rush with 138 passing on 20 attempts. Cade Klubnik, 33 of 50, passing for 263 yards with 2 interceptions. He averaged 5.3 yards per pass attempt. Clemson had the 6th rated defense, allowing 266 yards a game with 3.1 yards per run. Their pass defense has been outstanding by allowing 9.8 yards per completion and 5.5 yards per pass attempt. Notre Dame in recent road games were held at 21 at Duke, 20 at Louisville. Clemson at home against Florida State did run for 146 yards and pass for 283. Player Clemson +3.5. Uconn and Tennessee college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Going to get fell to 1-7 with their 21-14 road defeat at Boston College. The Huskies rushed for 92 yards on 19 carries. They surrendered 246 yards to the Eagles with 187 passing yards on 29 attempts. Taquan Roberson, 11 of 24 passing for 130 yards. He averaged 5.4 yards per pass attempt. Tennessee improved to 6-2, a 33-27 road win at Kentucky. The Volunteers rushed for 253 yards on 47 carries. They limited the Wildcats to 3 yards per rush with 372 passing yards on 39 attempts. Joe Milton, 18 of 21 passing for 228 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 10.9 yards per pass attempt, a season high. Now, in recent home games, the Volunteers put up 45 to UTSA, 41 to South Carolina. Connecticut has shown enough improvement in the past 3 games. Tennessee, 28th in total offense. They run for 5.5 yards a carry. Play here, Uconn and Tennessee over 53. Kansas State and Texas college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Kansas State improved to 6-2 with their 41-0 home victory to Houston Cougars. The Wildcats rushed for 179 yards on 46 carries. They allowed 4.3 yards per rush to the Cougars with 95 passing on 33 attempts. Will Howard, 15 of 17 passing for 164 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 9.6 yards per pass attempt. Texas improved to 7-1 after their 35-6 home victory to BYU Cougars. Longhorns rushed for 184 yards on 35 carries. They allowed the Cougars to under 4 yards per rush with 197 passing on 39 attempts. Quinn Ewers missed the game last week with a shoulder injury and is questionable here. Malik Murphy hit 16 of 25 passes for 170 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt. Kansas State is holding opponents at 3.7 yards per rush and has been efficient in pass defense. Kansas State in conference, they're putting up 37 points and 464 yards a game. Texas quarterback situation, the concern. The play here, Kansas State plus the 5. Texas A&M and Ole Miss college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Texas A&M 5-3 after their 30-17 home victory to South Carolina. Aggies rushed for 105 yards on 40 carries. They limited the Gamecocks to 1.2 yards per rush with 176 passing yards on 33 attempts. Max Johnson, 20 of 30 passing for 249 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 8.3 yards per pass attempt. Ole Miss improved to 7-1, a 33-7 home victory to Vanderbilt. Rebels rushed for 177 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 169 yards rushing to the Commodores with 60 passing on 20 attempts. Jackson Dart, 19 of 28 passing for 240 yards with a touchdown and interception. He had a rushing touchdown. Texas A&M dropped both true road games by 15 at Miami and 7 at Tennessee. The Aggies in their road games are allowing 391 yards, 4.2 yards per rush, along with 14.8 yards per completion and 9 yards per pass attempt. Ole Miss has covered their home games with wins by 6 to LSU, 7 to Arkansas, and 26 to Vanderbilt. The play here will be Ole Miss minus 3.5. Arkansas and Florida college football pick. This one here Saturday. Arkansas is 2-6 after their 7-3 home defeat 2 weeks ago to Mississippi State. The Razorbacks rushed for 103 yards on 37 carries. They allowed 3.1 yards per rush to the Bulldogs with 85 passing on 12 attempts. KJ Jefferson completed 19 of 31 passing for 97 yards with an interception. He averaged 3.1 yards per pass attempt, a season low. Florida fell to 5-3 with a 43-20 neutral site defeat to Georgia. Gators rushed for 109 yards on 25 carries. They allowed 171 yards rushing to the Bulldogs with 315 passing on 28 attempts. Graham Mertz, 25 of 34 passing for 230 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged a season low of 6.8 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. KJ Jefferson's efficiency a concern as Arkansas in the passing game is averaging 8.6 yards per completion, 5.3 yards per pass attempt. In this period, the Razorbacks are averaging 245 yards with 2.3 yards per run. The Razorbacks defense in this span allowed 333 yards with 3.7 yards per rush. The player Arkansas and Florida under 49. Wisconsin and Indiana college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Wisconsin fell to 5-3 with a 24-10 home defeat to Ohio State Buckeyes. Badgers rushed for 94 yards on 25 carries. They surrendered 184 yards rushing to the Buckeyes with 226 passing on 26 attempts. The Badgers had a +2 turnover margin. Braden Locke completed 18 of 39 passes for 165 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 4.2 yards per pass attempt. Indiana fell to 2-6 after their 33-24 road defeat at Penn State. Hoosiers rushed for 80 yards on 34 carries. They allowed 132 yards rushing to the Nittany Lions with 210 passing on 31 attempts. Brandon Sorsby hit on 13 of 19 passing for 269 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged a season-high 14 yards per pass attempt. The Badgers are rushing for 4.7 yards a carry, with the Hoosiers giving up 4.5 yards a carry. Indiana 115th in the nation in total offense. They averaged 316 yards per game, 3.3 yards per rush. The Wisconsin pass defense has been efficient. In the Big Ten, the Hoosiers average just 13 points and allow over 36 a game. Play here Wisconsin minus the 9.5. Jacksonville State and South Carolina college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. All right, Jacksonville State is 7-1 with their 41-6 road victory at FIU. Team rushed for 265 yards on 55 carries. They held the Golden Panthers to under 1 yard per run with 218 passing on 28 attempts. Zion Webb, 9 of 19 passing for 105 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 5.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. South Carolina fell to 2-6, a 30-17 road defeat at Texas A&M. Team rushed for 33 yards on 28 carries. South Carolina held the Aggies to under 3 yards a carry with 249 passing on 30 attempts. Spencer Rattler hit 20 of 33 passes for 176 yards and a touchdown. He averaged a season-low 5.3 yards per pass attempt and was sacked 4 times. This is the first Power 5 conference team that Jacksonville State played this season. Jacksonville State is a high-volume rushing team and expect them to run a lot here. South Carolina should be able to run here on this Jacksonville State team that played in FCS last year and pretty much drained clock. Play here will be on Jacksonville State and South Carolina under 55. Ohio State and Rutgers college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Ohio State 8-0 with a 24-10 road win at Wisconsin. Buckeyes rushed for 184 yards on 41 carries. They limited Wisconsin to under 4 yards per rush with 165 passing yards on 39 attempts. Ohio State survived a -2 turnover margin. Kyle McCord 17 of 26 passing for 226 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Rutgers improved to 6-2 after their 31-14 road win 2 weeks ago to the Indiana Hoosiers. The Scarlet Knights rushed for 276 yards on 55 carries. They allowed 153 rushing yards to the Hoosiers with 126 passing on 31 attempts. Gavin Wimsatt, 5 of 12 passes for 39 yards. He averaged 3.3 yards per pass and rushed for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. Rutgers is 9th in the nation in defense by allowing 277 yards a game with 3.6 yards per rush. They are efficient in defending the pass. The Rutgers run game generates 4.5 yards a carry. The Buckeyes are rushing for only 3.9 yards per carry, and the Scarlet Knights defend the run well. Play here Rutgers plus the 18.5. Arizona State and Utah college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Arizona State improved to 2-6, a 38-27 home victory to Washington State. Sun Devils rushed for 238 yards on 36 carries. They allowed 4.3 yards per rush to the Cougars with 315 passing on 50 attempts. Trent Burkett completed 19 of 26 passes for 274 yards with 10.5 yards per pass attempt. Utah fell to 6-2, a 35-6 home defeat to Oregon Ducks. Utes rushed for 99 yards on 36 carries. They allowed 142 yards rushing to the Ducks with 248 passing on 31 attempts. Bryson Barnes, 15 of 29 passing for 136 yards and 2 interceptions. He averaged 4.7 yards per pass attempt. Utah is 18th in total defense by allowing 307 yards per game and 3.3 yards per rush. Arizona State on the road averaging just 14 points per game. Utah at home held teams to just 273 yards a game. Arizona State not an efficient passing offense. Play here Utah minus 10.5. Georgia Tech and Virginia college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Georgia Tech improved to 4-4, a 46-42 home victory to North Carolina. Yellow Jackets rushed for 348 yards on 48 carries. They allowed 267 yards rushing to the Tar Heels with 310 passing on 25 attempts. Haynes King, 23 of 30 passing for 287 yards with 4 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 9.6 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 90 yards. Virginia fell to 2-6, a 29-26 road defeat at Miami. Cavaliers rushed for 138 yards on 45 carries. They allowed 4.5 yards per run to the Hurricanes with 163 passing yards on 30 attempts. Tony Muskett, 24 of 38 passing for 239 yards with an interception. He averaged 6.3 yards per pass attempt. Georgia Tech is 18th in total offense as they average 459 yards a game and running for 5.5 yards a carry. They are an efficient passing team. Virginia struggles in rush defense by giving up 4.5 yards a carry. The Cavaliers are a poor rushing team that averages 3 yards per carry. Georgia Tech has road wins in the ACC at Wake Forest and Miami. Player Georgia Tech at plus the 2.5. All right, that was our college football pick show here. Of course, it was brought to you by Rhythm. Create custom sports betting models right now at Rhythm. Download at the Apple, Google, and Android store. And of course, you'll save a lot of time with Rhythm because you still do the thinking. You create your models, but Rhythm takes care of all the grunt work like scoring, like loading the stats, running the variances for you. It saves you about half an hour to 2 hours a day in handicapping. Trust me, I use it. I definitely recommend it. And it also works on your phone as well. So a very, very great piece of software to help you make better bets because you can load in your core factors into the software and then let it run. Pretty much that simple. I know there's stats, there's tools out there, but they set the endpoints. You're in control. You do the thinking. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have free college football picks updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports like NFL, NBA, NHL. We got World Series. College basketball is just a week away, making it a great time to subscribe. And don't forget to support our channel with that like, that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com, for our best plays. Our premium picks are there. You see the promo code TonyT at checkout. You'll save the 20% off. All right, we got live shows on lots of pick all over our channel. I'm Tony T. We'll talk to you guys later. Navy and Temple College, a football pick. This one here on Saturday. Navy fell to 3-4 with their 17-6 home defeat to the Air Force. Midshipmen rushed for 22 yards on 137 yards on 35 carries. They allowed 137 yards rushing to the Falcons with 151 passing on 5 attempts. Ty Labate hit 13 of 23 passes for 96 yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He rushed for only 3 yards, 3 times for 8 yards. Temple fell to 2-6, a 55-zip home defeat to SMU. Owls rushed for 224 yards on 25 carries. They allowed 205 yards rushing to the Mustangs with 358 passing yards on 43 attempts. E.J. Warner expected to return from his concussion as he practiced on Monday. Warner on the year, 56% completion rate, 6.4 yards per pass attempt. He has 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. Temple, 116th in the nation in offensive yards per play at 4.9. They struggle with their running game and are an inefficient passing team. Navy, high volume running, so expect a high volume of rushes from the midshipmen. They have played to under in 3 straight and have shown defensive improvement over their past few games. The play will be Navy and Temple under 42.5. Army and Air Force college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Game played in Denver, Colorado, neutral site. Army fell to 2-6 with their 21-14 home defeat to UMass. Black Knights rushed for 204 yards on 42 attempts. They surrendered 231 yards on the ground to the Minutemen with 121 passing on 23 attempts. Army had a -3 turnover margin. Bryson Daly hit 3 of 13 passes for 28 yards and 2 interceptions. He averaged 2.2 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 58 yards and a touchdown. Air Force is a perfect 8-0 after their 30-13 road win at Colorado State. Falcons rushed for 267 yards on 54 carries. They limited the Rams to 2.1 yards per rush with 297 passing on 45 attempts. Zach Lear 407 passing for 32 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 4.6 yards per rush and had a rushing touchdown. These teams run familiar offenses and know each other well. Both teams run at a high volume of rushing attempts, so there will be fewer ball possessions on both sides. Army is running for 4 yards per rush, and with their limited pass attempts have made big plays downfield. Play here Army plus the 19. FAU and UAB college football pick. This one here Saturday. FAU improved to 4-4 with their 38-16 road win at Charlotte. The Owls rushed for 131 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 161 yards passing to the 49ers with 161 yards rushing to the 49ers with 164 passing on 35 attempts. Daniel Richardson completed 19 of 26 passes for 218 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 8.4 yards per pass attempt. UAB sits at 2-6, a 45-21 home defeat. 2 weeks ago to Memphis, the Blazers rushed for 208 yards on 39 carries. They surrendered 193 rushing yards to the Tigers with 159 passing on 28 attempts. UAB had a -4 turnover margin. Jacob Zeno missed the game due to injury and is questionable. He has completed 74% of his passes with 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Landry Liddy started and hit 6 of 9 passes for 68 yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He averaged 7.6 yards per pass attempt. The Blazers rotated 3 quarterbacks. UAB is 113th in the nation in total defense as they allow 419 yards a game, 5.4 yards per rush. FAU offense in conference is putting up 31 points and 370 yards a game. UAB is allowing 309 yards and 39 points per game against conference foes. The Blazers quarterback situation a concern, and they have lost 6 of 7 against FBS teams. Play here FAU at -2.5. UTSA and North Texas college football pick. Here we go for Saturday's action. All right, UTSA 5-3 after a 41-27 home victory to East Carolina. Roadrunners rushed for 120 yards on 32 carries. They surrendered 141 rushing yards to the Pirates with 226 passing on 43 attempts. Frank Harris completed 20 of 32 passes for 395 yards with 4 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 12.3 yards per pass attempt. North Texas drops to 3-5, a 45-42 home defeat to Memphis. Mean Green rushed for 180 yards on 24 carries. They surrendered 270 yards rushing to the Tigers with 330 passing on 28 attempts. Chandler Rogers hit 32 of 49 passes for 411 yards and 5 touchdowns. He averaged 8.4 yards per pass attempt. Roadrunners on the road have gone under in 3 of 4. In conference, they hold opponents at 23 points a game. North Texas have gone under in 3 of 4. UTSA holds teams at 3.6 yards per rush and do a great job in pass defense. Play here UTSA and North Texas under 70.5 points. USF and Memphis college football pick. This one here on Saturday. USF improved to 4-4 with a 24-21 road win 2 weeks ago at Uconn. The Bulls rushed for 260 yards on 49 carries. They surrendered 193 yards on the ground to the Huskies with 175 passing on 34 attempts. South Florida had a +3 turnover margin. Byron Brown hit 27 of 39 passes for 203 yards with an interception. He averaged 5.2 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 61 yards and a touchdown. Memphis improved to 6-2. A 45-42 road win at North Texas. The Tigers rushed for 270 yards on 41 carries. They surrendered 180 yards on the ground to the Mean Green with 411 yards passing on 50 attempts. Seth Hennigan, 22 of 28 passing for 330 yards and a touchdown. USF offensive production a concern as they put up only 14 points a game at home. FAU 24 at Uconn. South Florida is not an efficient passing team. Play here USF and Memphis under 68.5. Louisiana and Arkansas State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Louisiana is 5-3 with their 33-20 road win at South Alabama. The Raging Cajuns rushed for 203 yards. They allowed 117 yards rushing to the Jaguars with 381 passing on 49 attempts. Louisiana had a +3 turnover margin. Zion Chris hit 13 of 17 passes for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8.5 yards per pass attempt. Arkansas State improved to 4-4, a 34-24 road win at UL Monroe. Red Wolves rushed for 159 yards on 36 carries. They allowed 4.2 yards per rush to the Warhawks with 300 passing yards on 45 attempts. Jalen Rayner hit 15 of 30 passes for 298 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 9.9 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Louisiana struggles with pass defense by allowing 64% completion rate, 11.9 yards per completion, 7.7 yards per pass attempt. South Alabama makes big plays in the passing game with 14.6 yards per completion, 8 yards per pass attempt. Arkansas State at home moves the football for 390 yards a game. Louisiana against the Sun Belt, allowing 441 yards a game. Play here will be Arkansas State plus the 9.5. Iowa and Northwestern college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Game will be played neutral field, Wrigley Field in Chicago. Iowa fell to 6-2 with their 12-10 home defeat to Minnesota. Hawkeyes rushed for 11 yards on 28 carries. They held the Golden Gophers to 2.5 yards per rush with 126 passing yards on 25 attempts. Iowa had a -3 turnover margin. Deacon Hill hit 10 of 28 passes for 116 yards and an interception. He averaged 4.1 yards per pass attempt and rushed for a touchdown. Northwestern improved to 4-4 after their 33-27 home victory to Maryland. Wildcats rushed for 99 yards on 40 carries. They allowed over 4 yards per rush to the Terrapins with 274 passing yards on 47 attempts. Northwestern had a +2 turnover margin. Ben Bryant has an upper body injury and is doubtful. Brendan Sullivan in relief completed 16 of 23 passes for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 11.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 56 yards. Iowa has a 133rd ranked offense in college football by averaging 232 yards a game. They rush for 3.5 yards a carry and last in quarterback rating. Northwestern defends well but sits 121st in total offense. The Wildcats, they're running for just 2.9 yards a carry. The Hawkeyes, a stout defensive team as they stop the run and near the top of college football in pass defense. Play here, Iowa and Northwestern under 31. Missouri and Georgia college football pick. This one here Saturday. Missouri moves to 7-1 with their 34-12 home victory 2 weeks ago to South Carolina. Tigers rushed for 220 yards on 41 carries. They limited the Gamecocks at 2.3 yards per rush with 217 passing on 40 attempts. Brady Cook hit 14 of 24 passes for 198 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 8.3 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 64 yards and a touchdown. Georgia, they're moved to 8-0. A 43-20 neutral site win to Florida. Bulldogs rushed for 171 yards on 38 carries. They allowed 4.2 yards per rush to the Gators with 230 passing yards on 34 attempts. Carson Beck, 19 of 28 passing for 315 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 11.3 yards per pass attempt. Georgia is playing at a higher level right now. They sit 8th in total defense, exceptionally stopping both the run and the pass. They are 4th ranked offense by averaging 506 yards a game. They run for 5 yards a carry, have an efficient passing game. You know, that blowout against Kentucky, 51-13, was impressive. Missouri gave up 49 to LSU at home, and Georgia's a much better defensive team. Player Georgia -15.5. Florida State and Pittsburgh college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. All right, Florida 8-0, a 41-16 road victory to Wake Forest. Seminoles rushed for 126 yards on 30 carries. They held the Demon Deacons to 2.7 yards per rush with 82 passing yards on 16 carries. Jordan Travis, 22 of 35 passing for 359 yards and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 10.3 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Pitt fell to 2-6, a 58-7 road defeat at Notre Dame. The Panthers rushed for 53 yards on 19 carries. They surrendered 155 rushing yards to the Fighting Irish with 380 passing on 32 attempts. Notre Dame had 2 turnovers and forced 5 away from the Panthers. Christian Velo hit 14 of 29 passes for 127 yards and 4 interceptions. He averaged 4.4 yards per pass attempt. Florida State 22nd total offense by averaging 453 yards a game. They are efficient in the passing game. Pittsburgh struggles in pass defense and gives up big plays. The Panthers' offense at home puts up 32 points and 341 yards a game. Play here Florida State and Pitt over 51. Virginia Tech and Louisville college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Virginia Tech 4-4 after a 38-10 home victory to Syracuse. Hokies rushed for 318 yards on 53 carries. They allowed no rushing yards to the Orange on 25 carries with 137 passing yards on 18 attempts. Grant Wells missed the game against Syracuse with an ankle injury. He is questionable for Saturday. Kyron Drones 15-24 passing for 194 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 8.1 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 56 yards. Louisville improved to 7-1, a 23-zip home victory to Duke. Cardinals rushed for 234 yards on 48 carries. They limited the Blue Devils to 2.5 yards per rush with 151 passing on 28 attempts. Jack Plummer, 11 of 16 passing for 117 yards. He averaged 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Louisville defense is 15th in the nation by allowing 303 yards a game and only 3 yards per rush. Virginia Tech has issues with quarterback accuracy. Virginia Tech has been outstanding in pass defense. In conference, the Hokies are averaging 281 yards a game. The play here will be Virginia Tech and Louisville under 48.5. Houston and Baylor college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Houston fell to 3-5 with their 41-0 road defeat to Kansas State. Cougars rushed for 113 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 179 yards rushing to the Wildcats with 215 passing. Donovan Smith completed 13 of 28 passes for 88 yards and an interception. He averaged 3.1 yards per pass attempt. Baylor fell to 3-5, a 30-18 home defeat to Iowa State. Bears rushed for 67 yards on 25 carries. They allowed 162 yards rushing to the Cyclones with 238 passing on 31 attempts. Blake Shapen at 24 of 41 passing for 239 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 5.8 yards per pass attempt. Baylor defense has given up 5.1 yards per rush and poor in pass defense. They are 116th in the nation by allowing 6.2 yards per play. Baylor offensively rushes for only 3.3 yards per carry. They struggle with quarterback accuracy. And get this, the Bears 0-5 straight up at home where they average 16 points a game and give up 34. Play here Houston plus the 4. UCF and Cincinnati college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. UCF fell to 3-5 with their 41-28 home defeat to West Virginia. The Knights rushed for 189 yards. They allowed 286 yards rushing to the Mountaineers with 164 passing on 24 attempts. Central Florida had in this one a -3 turnover margin. John Rice Plumlee completed 25 of 26 passes for 274 yards with 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He rushed for 45 yards and a touchdown. Cincinnati fell to 2-6 with their 45-13 road defeat at Oklahoma State. Bearcats rushed for 277 yards on 50 carries. They surrendered 315 yards to the Cowboys with 286 passing yards on 34 attempts. Emory Jones, 6 of 16 passes for 117 yards with an interception. He averaged 7.3 yards per pass attempt. UCF is a high-volume running team that should run a clock here. Cincinnati is holding teams to 4 yards a carry and limit opposing quarterbacks to 55% passing percentage. UCF limits opposing quarterbacks to 56% completion rate, only 6.7 yards per pass attempt. The Bearcats in Big 12 games averaging 17 points per game and 5.3 yards per play. Cincinnati has committed multiple turnovers in 5 of their past 6 games. The Knights are also dealing with turnover issues in the conference. Play here UCF and Cincinnati under 59.5. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Oklahoma fell to 7-1 with their 38-33 road defeat at Kansas. Sooners rushed for 269 yards on 55 carries. They allowed 225 yards to the Jayhawks with 218 passing on 32 attempts. Each team had 3 turnovers. Dylan Gabriel completed 14 of 19 passes for 171 yards with an interception that went for a Kansas touchdown. He averaged 9 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 64 yards with 3 touchdowns. Oklahoma State improved to 6-2, a 45-13 home victory to Cincinnati. Cowboys rushed for 315 yards on 37 carries. They allowed 277 yards rushing to the Bearcats with 165 passing on 25 attempts. Alan Bowman, 17 of 34 passing for 286 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. Oklahoma State is 39th in total offense, averaging 429 yards a game, and they are rushing for 5.6 yards per rush. The Cowboys showed improvement in conference as they averaged 37 points and 494 yards a game. Past 3 games, the Sooners' defense has given up 455 yards and 32 points a game. Play here Oklahoma State here plus the 6. Tulane and East Carolina college football pick. This one here on Saturday. All right, Tulane improved to 7-1 with their 30-28 road win at Rice. Green Wave rushed for 194 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 4.1 yards per rush to the Owls with 189 passing on 29 attempts. Michael Pratt, 22 of 30 for 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He averaged 8.8 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. East Carolina fell to 1-7. A 41-27 road defeat at UTSA. Pirates rushed for 141 yards on 35 carries. They allowed 120 rushing yards to the Roadrunners with 395 passing on 34 attempts. Alex Flynn hit 23 of 43 passes for 225 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 5.2 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 53 yards. East Carolina 129th in total offense by averaging 288 yards a game. They rushed for 3.6 yards a carry. With a passing game ranking near the bottom of college football in every key area. Tulane holds teams at 2.8 yards per rush, which means the Pirates will have trouble scoring and sustaining drives here. Green Wave has an efficient passing game and ECU inefficient in pass coverage. Play here Tulane minus 16.5. James Madison and Georgia State's college football pick. This one here on Saturday. James Madison improved to 8-0 after a 30-27 home victory to Old Dominion. Dukes rushed for 123 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 138 yards rushing to the Monarchs with 277 passing yards on 36 attempts. Jordan McLeod, 27 of 40 passes for 340 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He averaged 8.5 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Georgia State fell to 6-2, a 44-27 road defeat at Georgia Southern. Panthers rushed for 290 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 118 rushing yards to the Eagles with 334 passing on 36 attempts. Georgia State had 3 turnovers and took 1 away from Eagles. Darren Granger hit 21 of 37 passes for 157 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He rushed for 80 yards. JMU has an efficient passing attack. Georgia State struggles in pass defense by giving up big plays. The Dukes are 37th in total defense by allowing 337 yards a game and only 1.6 yards per rush. James Madison in conference play, holding teams at 17 points and 319 yards a game. Georgia State in conference allowing 402 yards per game. Play here James Madison at minus the 5.5. Coastal Carolina and Old Dominion college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Coastal Carolina improved to 5-3, a 34-6 home victory to Marshall. Chanticleers are rushed for 145 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 3.1 yards per rush to the Thundering Herd with 202 passing yards on 45 attempts. Coastal Carolina turned it over twice, forced 5 away from Marshall. Grayson McCall missed the game due to a head injury and is questionable. Jarrett Guest completed 14 of 20 passes for 289 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 14.5 yards per pass attempt. Old Dominion fell to 4-4, a 30-27 road defeat at James Madison. Monarchs rushed for 138 yards on 43 carries. They allowed nearly 4 yards per rush to the Dukes with 340 passing on 40 attempts. Grant Wilson, 26 of 36 passes for 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 7.7 yards per pass attempt. Chanticleers have an efficient passing attack. Old Dominion is giving up 66% completion rate, 7.6 yards per pass attempt. Old Dominion deals with quarterback accuracy issues and allow over 5 sacks a game, ranking 132nd in the nation. Chanticleers hold opposing quarterbacks to 56% passing. Coastal Carolina in conference games is averaging 460 yards a game. Play here will be Coastal Carolina -1. Penn State and Maryland college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Penn State is 7-1 after their 33-24 home victory to the Indiana Hoosiers. The Nittany Lions rushed for 132 yards on 43 carries. They limit the Hoosiers to under 3 yards per rush with 269 passing yards on 19 attempts. Drew Alar, 20 of 31 passing for 210 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt. Maryland drops to 5-3. A 33-27 road defeat at Northwestern. Terrapins rushed for 117 yards on 27 carries. They allowed 2.5 yards per run to the Wildcats with 265 passing yards on 23 attempts. Maryland had a -2 turnover margin. Talia Tagovailoa hit 20 in the game, hit 30 of 47 passes for 274 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged a season low of 5.8 yards per pass attempt and was sacked 6 times. Penn State second in total defense by allowing 234 yards a game. They hold teams at 2.3 yards per rush and are efficient in defending the pass. Penn State offensively struggles with quarterback efficiency. Maryland has seen their offensive production drop in conference. Last 3 games, they were averaging just under 23 points a game. Player will be Penn State and Maryland under 51. Illinois and Minnesota college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Illinois fell to 3-5 after their 25-21 home defeat to Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. The final Illini rushed for 223 yards on 45 carries. They allowed 4 yards per rush to the Badgers with 240 passing on 41 attempts. Luke Altmaier, 13 of 21 passing for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 4.8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for season-high 100 yards. Minnesota improved to 5-3. A 27-12 home victory to Michigan State. Golden Gophers rushed for 200 yards on 50 carries. They allowed 5.1 yards per rush to the Spartans with 190 passing on 34 attempts. Minnesota survived a -2 turnover margin. Anthony Kalakmanis hit here on 14 of 22 passes for 200 yards with a touchdown and interception. Golden Gophers are 117th in total offense with issues running the football, quarterback accuracy, and efficiency. Illinois has been efficient in pass defense. Golden Gophers in the conference average just 292 yards a game. Player Illinois plus the 2. Auburn and Vanderbilt college football pick for Saturday. Auburn improved to 4-4 after a 27-13 home victory to Mississippi State. The Tigers rushed for 186 yards on 36 carries. They allowed 184 rushing yards to the Bulldogs with 161 passing on 34 attempts. Peyton Thorne, 20 of 26 passing for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 8.8 yards per pass attempt. Vanderbilt moved to 2-7, a 33-7 road defeat to Ole Miss. Commodores rushed for 169 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 4.5 yards per rush to the Rebels with 254 passing on 29 attempts. Ken Seals, 4 of 8 passing for 22 yards and an interception. He averaged only 2.8 yards per pass attempt. Vanderbilt is 118th in the nation in total defense by allowing 436 yards a game. Teams rush for 4.9 yards a carry on the Commodores and complete 69% of their passes on them. Auburn, a really good rushing team, 4.7 yards a carry this year. Vanderbilt rushes for only 3.4 yards a carry, and they really struggle with quarterback accuracy. Commodores have failed to cover 8 of 9. They are allowing 475 yards per game in the SEC and 5.6 yards per rush. Play here Auburn minus the 12.5. Charlotte and Tulsa college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Charlotte fell to 2-6 with a 38-16 home victory to FAU. 49ers rushed for 161 yards on 48 carries. They allowed 131 yards rushing to the Owls with 218 passing on 27 attempts. Jalen Jones, a 9 of 15 passing for 59 yards. He averaged 4.2 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 38 yards. Drexler Ivy saw work and went 8 of 15 for 68 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 4.5 yards per pass attempt. Tulsa fell to 3-5, a 69-10 road defeat at SMU. Golden Hurricane rushed for 123 yards on 47 carries. They allowed 192 yards rushing to the Mustangs with 446 passing yards on 29 attempts. Tulsa had a -2 turnover margin. Braylon Braxton, 10 of 20 passing for 92 yards and 2 interceptions. Charlotte is the 120th ranked offense in college football by averaging 209 yards per game. They run for 3.6 yards per rush and are inefficient in the passing game. Tulsa ranks 91st in total offense with struggles on the ground and with quarterback accuracy. Charlotte defends, holding teams at 345 yards a game. And the 49ers average only 10.5 points a game in conference. Past 3 games, Golden Hurricane averaging just 12 points per game. Play here will be on Charlotte and Tulsa under 48.5. UL Monroe and Southern Miss college football pick. This one here on Saturday. UL Monroe fell to 2-6 with their 34-24 home defeat to Arkansas State. Warhawks rushed for 148 yards on 35 carries. They surrendered 4.5 yards per rush to the Red-Wolves with 298 passing on 30 attempts. Blake Murphy, 25 of 44 for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt. Southern Miss fell to 1-7, a 48-38 road defeat to Appalachian State. Golden Eagles rushed for 301 yards on 43 carries. They allowed 180 yards rushing to the Mountaineers with 391 passing on 33 attempts. Billy Wiles, 23 of 41 passing for 287 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 7 yards per pass attempt. Both defenses poor here. UL Monroe does a good job of running the football by averaging 4.6 yards per run, while the Golden Hurricane allows 5.4 yards per rush. Play here UL Monroe plus 2.5. Hawaii and Nevada college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Hawaii fell to 2-7 after a 35-zip home defeat to San Jose State. Warriors rushed for just 52 yards on 20 carries. They allowed 217 yards rushing to the Spartans with 251 passing on 26 attempts. Hawaii had a -2 turnover margin. Braden Shager, 17 of 29 passing for 132 yards and an interception. He averaged 4.6 yards per pass attempt. Nevada improved to 2-6, a 34-24 home victory to New Mexico. Wolfpack in the game rushed for 180 yards on 48 carries. They held the Lobos to over 3.5 yards per rush with 317 passing yards on 40 attempts. Nevada had a +3 turnover margin on the strength of 3 interceptions. Brandon Lewis, 8 of 16 passing for 92 yards. He averaged 5.8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 64 yards. Nevada defense is 120th in the nation by allowing 459 yards a game with 5.4 yards per rush attempt. They are allowing big plays in the passing game. Hawaii, poor defensive team, giving up 395 yards a game, 4.9 yards per run, and big plays also in the passing game. The Warriors' past 4 games allowed an average of 41 points a game. Play here Hawaiian and Nevada over 50. Georgia Southern and Texas State college football pick. This one here for Saturday. Georgia Southern is 6-2 with their 44-27 home victory to Georgia State. Eagles rushed for 118 yards on 38 carries. They surrendered 290 rushing yards to the Panthers with 157 passing on 37 attempts. Davis Brin, 22 of 35 passing for 334 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 9.5 yards per pass attempt. Texas State fell to 5-3, a 31-13 home defeat to Troy. Bobcats rushed for 161 yards on 35 carries. They held the Trojans to 28 rushing yards, but 392 passing on 40 attempts. The Bobcats had a -4 turnover margin. T.J. Finley, 24-38 passing for 262 yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He averaged 6.9 yards per pass attempt. The Eagles sit 25th in total offense in the nation with 449 yards per game. They are the highest volume passing team in college football and complete 66% of their passes. Texas State 109th in total defense with struggles in pass defense. The Bobcats over their past 3 games are averaging 21 points a game. Turnovers have been a major issue for Texas State with 13 in their past 5 games. Play here Georgia Southern -2. California and Oregon college football pick. This one here on Saturday. California 3-5 after their 50-49 home defeat to USC. Golden Bears rushed for 235 yards on 42 carries. They allowed 3.3 yards per rush to the Trojans with 369 passing on 40 attempts. Cal had a -3 turnover margin. Fernando Mendoza, 25 of 39 for 292 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 7.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oregon 7-1 after a 35-6 road victory at Utah. Ducks rushed for 142 yards on 27 carries. They limited the Utes to under 3 yards per rush with 142 passing yards on 30 attempts. Bo Nix, 24 of 31 passing for 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Really tough spot for a freshman, their Cal quarterback Mendoza in this spot. Oregon 16th in total defense by allowing 303 yards a game. Cal has not been efficient with their passing game this year. At home, the Ducks are holding teams to just under 12 points a game. Golden Bears struggled with offensively in Utah. They held Colorado, Stanford, and Utah to 6 points in each game. Player will be Cal and Oregon under 59.5. Louisiana Tech and a Liberty college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Louisiana Tech fell to 3-6 with their 27-24 home defeat to New Mexico State. The Bulldogs rushed for 133 yards on 43 carries. They allowed 232 yards rushing to the Aggies with 95 passing on 19 attempts. Hank Bachmeier, 20 of 27 passing for 238 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 8.8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 2 touchdowns. Louisiana Tech had a -2 turnover margin. Liberty improved to 8-0 after their 42-29 road win at Western Kentucky. Flames rushed for 223 yards on 54 carries. They allowed 119 yards on the ground of the Hilltoppers with 365 passing yards on 44 attempts. Caden Salter, 10 of 15 passing for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 11.3 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 117 yards and a touchdown. Liberty has efficient pass defense. Louisiana Tech does a great job in pass defense. This figures to be a high volume rushes here in the game. The player will be Louisiana Tech and Liberty here to go under 59. Marshall and Appalachian State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Marshall fell to 4-4 with their 34-6 road defeat at Coastal Carolina. The Thundering Herd rushed for 81 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 145 yards rushing to Chanticleers with 282 passing yards on 22 attempts. Marshall committed 5 turnovers and took 2 from Coastal Carolina. Cam Franker completed 11 of 22 passes for 125 yards and 2 interceptions. He averaged a season low 5.7 yards per pass attempt. App State improved to 4-4 with their 48-38 home victory to Southern Miss. The Mountaineers rushed for 180 yards on 32 carries. They surrendered 301 yards rushing to the Golden Eagles with 287 passing yards on 42 attempts. Joey Aguilar, 23 of 33 passing for 391 yards with 4 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 11.8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 43 yards. Marshall comes off two games against two good defenses and facing App State defense that ranks 115th in the nation here by giving up 424 yards a game. App State allows 5.6 yards per rush. Marshall limits the big plays in the passing game. App State has failed to cover all 4 games against the Sun Belt, and they're giving up 33 points and 509 yards per game in the conference. Play here in Marshall at plus the 3.5. UNLV and New Mexico college football pick. This one here on Saturday. UNLV fell to 6-2 with their 31-24 road defeat at Fresno State. The Rebels rushed for 156 yards on 43 carries. They limited the Bulldogs to 2.9 yards per rush with 258 yards passing on 41 attempts. UNLV committed 4 turnovers and took 2 away from the Bulldogs. Jaden Mavia completed 21 of 35 passes for 268 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He averaged 7.7 yards per pass attempt. New Mexico fell to 3-5, a 34-24 road defeat to New Mexico. Lobos rushed for 83 yards on 23 carries. They allowed 180 yards rushing to the Wolfpack with 131 passing on 19 attempts. Mexico had a -3 turnover margin. Dylan Hopkins, 18 of 34 passing for 271 yards with a touchdown and 3 interceptions. He averaged 8 yards per pass attempt. UNLV runs for 4.7 yards a carry. Lobos sit 125th in the nation and allowing 5.1 yards per rush. New Mexico gives up big plays in the passing game by allowing 14 yards per completion, 8.6 yards per pass attempt. Rebels are an efficient passing team. Play here UNLV at -10. Middle Tennessee State and New Mexico State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Middle Tennessee State fell to 2-6. It was a 42-35 road defeat at Liberty. The Blue Raiders rushed for 96 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 401 yards rushing to the Flames with 140 passing on 20 attempts. Nick Fatiato completed 24 of 37 passes for 332 yards with 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He averaged 9 yards per pass attempt. New Mexico State improved to 6-3, a 27-24 road win at Louisiana Tech. In this one, the Aggies rushed for 232 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 133 yards rushing to the Bulldogs with 238 passing yards on 27 attempts. New Mexico State had a +2 turnover margin. Diego Pavia hit 10 of 19 passes for 95 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 67 yards with a touchdown. New Mexico State, a strong running team, averaging 6 yards a carry. The Blue Raiders 11th in total defense as they give up 4.4 yards per rush and allow 64% completion rate. The Aggies are efficient in the passing game. The Blue Raiders struggle on the ground and with passing efficiency. Play here New Mexico State -3. Kansas and Iowa State college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Kansas improved to 6-2 after their 38-33 home victory at Oklahoma. Jayhawks rushed for 225 yards on 41 carries. They allowed 269 yards rushing to the Sooners with 171 passing yards on 19 attempts. Each team committed 3 turnovers. Jalen Daniels doubtful with that back injury and has missed the past 4 games. Jason Bean went 15-32 passing for 218 yards with 2 interceptions. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 62 yards with a touchdown. Iowa State improved to 5-3, a 30-18 road win at Baylor. The Cyclones rushed for 162 yards on 35 carries. They held the Bears at 2.5 yards per rush with 239 passing yards on 41 attempts. Rocco Becht, 19-31 passing for 238 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 7.7 yards per pass attempt. The Jayhawks rushed for only 3.8 yards to carry on the road. Cyclones defend well, holding teams at 326 yards, 3.7 yards per rush, and efficient in stopping the run. Iowa State, a poor offensive team on the ground and inefficient in the pass game. Cyclones 3-1 to the under behind really good defense. The player Kansas and Iowa State to go under 53.5. BYU and West Virginia college football pick. This one here on Saturday. BYU fell to 5-3, a 35-6 road defeat at Texas. The Cougars rushed for 95 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 184 yards rushing to the Longhorns with 170 passing on 35 attempts. BYU committed 3 turnovers and took 2 from the Longhorns. Keaton Slovis, 24 of 39 passing for 197 yards with 2 interceptions. He averaged 5.1 yards per pass attempt and a lost fumble. West Virginia improved to 5-3, a 41-28 road win at UCF. Mountaineers rushed for 286 yards on 50 carries. They allowed 189 yards on the ground of the Knights with 274 passing yards on 36 attempts. WVU had a +3 turnover margin. Garrett Green, 14 of 23 passing for 156 yards. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 55 yards and 3 touchdowns. West Virginia struggles with quarterback accuracy, and BYU is efficient in pass defense. Past 3 games, the Mountaineers are allowing 39 points and 450 yards a game. Play here at BYU at +10. Utah State and San Diego State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Utah State here fell to 3-5, a 42-21 road defeat at San Jose State. Aggies rushed for 104 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 251 rushing yards to the Spartans with 119 passing on 20 attempts. McKay Hillstead, 17 of 29 passes for 160 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He averaged 5.5 yards per pass attempt. San Diego State fell to 3-5, a 6-zip home defeat 2 weeks ago to Nevada. Aztecs rushed for 157 yards on 39 attempts. They allowed 144 yards rushing to the Wolfpack with 98 passing yards on 22 attempts. Jalen Maiden, 6 of 14 passes for just 47 yards. He averaged a season low of 3.4 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 52 yards. Utah State had the 23rd ranked offense as they averaged 451 yards a game. They run for 4.6 yards a carry. And the Aztecs are giving up nearly 5 yards per carry on the ground. The Aggies have an efficient passing offense, with San Diego State giving up big chunks of yards in completed passes. The Aztecs offense is concerned. They're giving up 401 yards and 31 points per game against the Mountain West. Play here Utah State at +2.5. Washington versus USC college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Washington is 8-0 after a 42-33 road win at Stanford. Huskies rushed for 91 yards on 27 carries. They allowed under 4 yards per rush to the Cardinal with 367 passing yards on 51 attempts. The Huskies had a -2 turnover margin. Michael Penix went 21 of 38 passing for 369 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he also had a pick in that game. The average in the game, 9.7 yards per pass attempt. Now USC improved to 7-2, a 50-49 road win at Cal. Trojans rushed for 128 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 235 yards rushing to the Golden Bears with 292 passing yards on 39 attempts. USC had a +3 turnover margin. Caleb Williams, 23 of 40 for 369 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 9.2 yards per pass attempt and had 2 rushing touchdowns. The Huskies hold teams to 4.1 yards per rush, and they play efficient pass defense. You know, Washington held scoring down on Arizona State. Oregon and Washington combined for 69 points, and we just saw that the combined points falling about what we see here with that Stanford and Washington game combined for 75. That would have gone under 76.5 there. The Huskies on the road holding teams to just 21 points a game. Play here Washington USC under 76.5. SMU and Rice college football pick. This one here on Saturday. SMU improved to 6-2 with their 69-10 home victory to Tulsa. The Mustangs rushed for 192 yards on 39 carries. They held the Golden Hurricane to under 3 yards per rush with 124 passing yards on 25 attempts. SMU had a +2 turnover margin. Preston Stone, 15 of 20 passing for 371 yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged a season high of 18.6 yards per pass attempt. Rice moved to 4-4 with their 30-28 home defeat to Tulane. Owls rushed for 82 yards on 19 carries. They allowed 194 yards rushing to the Green Wave with 263 passing yards on 30 attempts. JT Daniels hit 18 of 29 passes for 189 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 6.5 yards per pass attempt. SMU is 12th in total defense by allowing 280 yards a game with 3 yards per rush. They are efficient in pass defense, allow only 57% completion rate. Rice, a poor running team, averaging 3.3 yards a carry. Rice holds teams to 4 yards per rush with 60% completion rate. The Mustangs in conference play allow 9 points and 250 yards a game. Player will be on SMU and Rice under 59.5. Purdue and Michigan college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Purdue fell to 2-6 with their 31-14 road defeat at Nebraska. Boilermakers rushed for 96 yards on 29 carries. They allowed 155 yards rushing to the Cornhuskers with 122 passing yards on 11 attempts. Purdue committed 3 turnovers, took 4 away from Nebraska. Hudson card 16 of 32 passing for 100 yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He averaged a season low 3.1 yards per pass attempt. Michigan improved 8-0, a 49-0 road victory 2 weeks ago at Michigan State. Wolverines rushed for 120 yards on 34 carries. They held the Spartans to 2 yards to carry with 133 passing on 29 attempts. Michigan had a +2 turnover margin. J.J. McCarthy completed 21 of 27 passing for 287 yards with 4 touchdowns. He averaged 10.6 yards per pass attempt. Purdue holds teams to 4.1 yards per rush and limit opponents to only 55% completion rate. Michigan is a high-volume rushing team that moves clock and makes it difficult to cover the spread. The play here will be Purdue +33. Kentucky and Mississippi State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Kentucky fell to 5-3 after their 33-27 home defeat to Tennessee. The Wildcats rushed for only 72 yards on 24 carries. They allowed 253 yards rushing to the Volunteers with 228 passing on 21 attempts. Devin Leary, 28 of 39 passing for 372 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 9.5 yards per pass attempt. Mississippi State dropped to 4-4, a 27-13 road defeat at Auburn. Bulldogs rushed for 184 yards on 35 carries. They allowed 186 yards rushing to the Tigers with 230 passing on 26 attempts. Will Rogers missed the past 2 games with an arm injury. He is questionable for Saturday. Mike Wright hit 16 of 32 passes for 161 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged only 5 yards per rush and per pass and rushed for 63 yards. Kentucky has a good running game at 5.5 yards a carry. They do make big plays in the passing game. Mississippi State struggles with pass defense by allowing 73% completion rate. The Bulldogs' run game generates 4.7 yards a carry. The Wildcats' defense poor form right now over the past 3 games, allowing 473 yards, 41 points a game. Mississippi State at home gives up 28 points and 388 yards a game. Player will be on Kentucky and Mississippi State over 46. LSU and Alabama college football pick. This one here on Saturday. LSU improved to 6-2, a 62-0 home victory 2 weeks ago to Army. The Tigers rushed for 201 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 151 yards rushing to the Black Knights with 42 passing on 15 attempts. LSU had a +4 turnover margin. Jaden Daniels hit 11 of 15 passes for 279 yards and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 18.6 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Alabama 7-1 with their 34-20 home victory 2 weeks ago to Tennessee. The Crimson Tide rushed for 138 yards on 42 carries. They allowed 133 yards rushing to the Volunteers with 271 passing on 41 attempts. Jalen Monroe hit on 14 of 21 passes for 220 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 10.5 yards per pass attempt. LSU has a 91st ranked defense by allowing 395 yards per game with 4.7 yards per rush. The Tigers give up big plays in the passing game by allowing 12.8 yards per completion, 7.6 yards per pass attempt. Alabama 17th in total defense. They're giving up just 306 yards per game, 3.1 yards per rush. They are efficient with pass defense by allowing 10.3 yards per completion, 6.2 yards per pass attempt. Crimson Tide, they do a good job of getting the quarterback 3.5 sacks a game. LSU away from home is giving up 38 points and 482 yards a game. The Crimson Tide defense gives them the check mark here, playing Alabama -3. Miami and NC State college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Miami 6-2 after their 29-26 home victory to Virginia. Hurricanes rushed for 113 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 138 yards on the ground to the Cavaliers with 239 passing on 38 attempts. Miami registered 6 sacks. Tyler Van Dyke, 20 of 30 passing for 163 yards, 2 interceptions. He averaged 5.4 yards per pass attempt, a season low. NC State improved to 5-3, a 24-17 home victory to Clemson. The Wolfpack rushed for 64 yards on 26 carries. They held the Orange to 101 yards rushing with 263 yards passing on 51 attempts. NC State had a +2 turnover margin. MJ Morris, 11 of 20 passing for 138 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6.9 yards per pass attempt. Miami's strong offensive team averaging 456 yards a game, 5.3 yards per rush. They are efficient in the passing game. The Wolfpack allowed big plays in the passing game. NC State, a poor offensive team that averages 3.8 yards per rush and is inefficient in the passing game. Hurricanes defensively allow 2.8 yards per rush. Wolfpack in the ACC are averaging 15 points and 256 yards a game. Play here, Miami, -5.5. Western Kentucky and UTEP college football pick Saturday. All right, we got Western Kentucky 4-4 after their 42-29 home defeat to Liberty. The Little Toppers rushed for 119 yards on 22 carries. They allowed 323 yards rushing to the Flames with 169 passing yards on 15 attempts. Austin Reed, 30 of 44 passing for 365 yards with 4 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 8.3 yards per pass attempt. UTEP improved to 3-6. A 37-34 road victory to Sam Houston State. Miners rushed for 222 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 4 yards per rush to the Bearcats with 225 yards passing on 40 attempts. Garvin Haddison remains questionable with that arm injury. Hudson, the backup Jake McNamara, missed part of past 3 games with a concussion. Now, third string Cade McConnell came in, goes 12 of 22 passing for 260 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 9.4 yards per pass attempt. WKU has had issues with quarterback accuracy and passing efficiency. Western Kentucky struggles in the defense, sitting 131st by allowing 467 yards a game and 5.5 yards per rush. Hilltoppers give up big plays in the passing game. Play here at UTEP +9.5. Stanford and Washington State college football pick Saturday. Stanford fell to 2-6 with their 42-33 home defeat to Washington Huskies. The Cardinal rushed for 132 yards on 35 carries. They limited the Huskies to 3.5 yards per rush with 369 yards passing on 38 attempts. Stanford had a +2 turnover margin. Ashton Daniels, he goes 31 of 50 for 367 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 7.3 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 85 yards and a touchdown. Washington State 4-4 after a 38-27 road defeat at Arizona State. Cougars rushed for 88 yards on 21 carries. They allowed 235 yards rushing to the Sun Devils with 274 passing on 26 attempts. Cameron Ward, 35 of 50 for 315 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 6.3 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 2 touchdowns. Now, Stanford struggles with their running game, just 3.6 yards a carry, and with quarterback accuracy and also an issue. Washington State runs for only 3.1 yards per rush. Washington State, over their past 3 games, they average just 19 points a game. It's 4 straight losses for the Cougars as they have limited their offense by getting their run game stopped. The play here, Stanford and Washington State under 59.5. Oregon State and Colorado college football pick Saturday. Oregon State fell to 6-2, a 27-24 road defeat to Arizona. Beavers rushed for 131 yards on 29 carries. They limit the Wildcats to under 3 yards per rush with 275 yards passing on 32 attempts. DJ Ugalele completed 16 of 30 passes for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Colorado fell to 4-4, a 28-16 road defeat to UCLA. Buffs rushed for 25 yards on 24 carries. They surrendered 218 yards rushing to the Bruins with 269 passing yards on 28 attempts. Colorado had a +4 turnover margin and surrendered 7 sacks. Shador Sanders, 27 of 43 passing for 217 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 5 yards per pass attempt. Oregon State has the 34th ranked offense in college football by averaging 439 yards a game. They are rushing for 5.4 yards per carry and are efficient in the passing game. Colorado is 133rd in the nation in total defense by giving up 475 yards a game. The Buffaloes have an efficient passing game and they throw at a high volume. The past 3 games, the Beavers are allowing 30 points and 420 yards a game. They do average 38 points and 454 yards per game on the road. At home, the Buffaloes are average 41 points and 492 yards a game, while giving up 36 points and 465 yards. But here, Oregon State and Colorado over 62. Boise State here and Fresno State college football pick Saturday. Boise State improved to 4-4, a 32-7 home victory to Wyoming. Broncos rushed for 227 yards on 50 carries. They limit the Broncos to 27 rushing yards. Limit the Cowboys to 27 rushing yards with 85 passing on 21 attempts. Taylon Green hit 3 of 6 passes for 69 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 32 yards and a touchdown. Madison got some work in, 12 of 15 passes for 147 yards and a touchdown. Kind of to rotate with Green here at quarterback. He averaged 9.8 yards per pass attempt. Fresno State improved to 7-1, a 31-24 home victory at UNLV. Bulldogs rushed for 56 yards on 20 carries. They allowed 156 yards rushing to the Rebels with 268 passing yards on 35 attempts. Fresno State had 2 turnovers and forced 4 from the Rebels. Mikey Keene, 27 of 41 passing for 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He averaged 6.2 yards per pass attempt. Boise State running the football for 5.1 yards a carry. They do make big plays in the passing game. The Broncos are strong in defending the run by allowing 3.7 yards a carry. Fresno State rushed for only 3.5 yards a carry. In conference, Boise State is moving the football for 430 yards and putting up 33 points a game. Player Boise State plus 2.5. UCLA and Arizona college football pick Saturday. All right, UCLA improved to 6-2 with their 28-16 home victory to Colorado. The Bruins rushed for 218 yards on 45 carries. They held the Buffaloes to 1 yard per rush with 217 passing yards on 43 attempts. UCLA had 7 quarterback sacks and survived a -4 turnover margin. Ethan Garber's 20 of 27 passing for 269 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 10 yards per pass attempt. Arizona improved to 5-3, a 27-24 home victory at Oregon State. Wildcats rushed for 88 yards on 38 carries. They held the Beavers to 4 yards per rush with 276 yards passing on 33 attempts. Noah Fafita, 25 of 32 passing for 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He averaged 8.6 yards per pass attempt. UCLA 10th in total defense by allowing 277 yards a game and only 2.1 yards per rush. They are efficient in pass defense. The Bruins defense on the road allows 16.8 points, 296 yards a game. Arizona struggles with pass defense, allowing 62% completions, 12.7 yards per completion, 7.9 yards per pass attempt. Play here will be on UCLA at -2.5. All right, that was our college football pick show here for Saturday. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have free college football picks updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports like NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball. It's just Monday, coming on Monday. Lots of live shows, making a great time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, give us that like, that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. And remember, visit our site, TonySpicks.com, for our best plays. Our premium picks are there. Use that promo code TonyT at checkout. You'll save that 20% off. And remember, TonySpicks.com is brought to you by Rhythm app. Great custom sports betting models right now over at Rhythm. Save a lot of time because with Rhythm, you do the thinking. When you create your models, you create the factors, and Rhythm takes care of all the grunt work like grading, finding your best bets, finding your edges, bringing in the lines. Makes it a lot easier. All right. We'll have a lot of picks for you throughout the weekend. I'm Tony T. We'll talk to you guys later.